Preparen. Apunten. ¡Viva Cristo Rey!
I'll speak just for a moment about Father Miguel Pro, a Jesuit priest very well known in this country. He was a Mexican who found his vocation to the Society of Jesus. He studied in Belgium. For a time he was in Nicaragua. One of the stories about his life that is very moving is his desire and willingness to suffer for the Lord. And he had to undergo abdominal surgery one day. And his health was so delicate because of this illness that he had that he wasn't able to have any type of anesthesia. So clutching the crucifix and biting down on a rag of some sort, they performed this operation on his stomach completely without anesthesia. And the eyewitnesses there said that the only sign of his pain, besides the expressions on his face, were the tears that rolled down his cheeks. He didn't cry out, he didn't groan, he didn't do anything. And in his writings, Father Miguel Pro talks frequently about his love of suffering because it's a way of helping to win faster and more mercifully the freedom of his fellow Mexican people. He went back to Mexico after his ordination, returning in 1926 undercover. And one of the things that made Father Pro so well known and so beloved was the way in which he went about his priestly ministry. He was a rascal. He was a character. And he did all kinds of crazy things to outwit the Mexicans, the Mexican police, I should say. Such things as one day he was being chased by a carload of police. They had found him, and they were hot on his trail. And he was in a cab that was a little bit further ahead. And the cab went around a corner, and he told the cab driver, he says, slow down just a little bit, but keep speeding up once I get out of the car. So he rolled out of the car, and there happened to be a pretty young woman standing there. So he locked arms with her and started chatting with her as if she was his girlfriend. And so the police came whizzing by, and they saw the couple, and they thought, well, that obviously isn't the priest. So they kept going. And, of course, they found a taxi cab without any passenger. Another time he was going to bring Holy Communion to the prisoners in one of the jails in Mexico City, and he came to the prison dressed as a policeman. And he walked right into the very center, talk about the belly of the beast, he walked into the very center of the place that was directing the search for him, dressed as a policeman. And he came to interrogate the prisoners. and of course he gave them our Blessed Lord in Holy Communion. Another time, he was very close to being captured when the house that he was in celebrating Mass, he had just finished celebrating Mass, somebody informed, and the house was surrounded by police, and he was able at the very last minute to sneak out. And this will show you a little bit of his type of personality. He went to some other house nearby and put on his police inspector's uniform, and he came back, and he started shouting at them, "How come you haven't found that priest yet?" And he told them he was going to report them if they didn't get busy and find that priest, and then he walked away smoking a cigar. Well, eventually he was captured. There was an assassination attempt against General Obregón, and the car from which a bomb had been thrown at the car of that political figure, that car had been traced when they captured the driver. The car was traced to Father Pro's brother, Umberto Pro. Now, neither Father Pro nor his brothers had any role to play in this assassination plot. They were completely ignorant of the fact that it had been planned. But a few weeks before, Father Pro's brother had sold the car to the man who was actually involved in the plot, and he had never bothered to change the registration in the car, so the government decided, well, this priest is part of the plot, so they lined him up in front of the firing squad on November 23rd, 1927, and shot him at 10:38 in the morning. This was filmed. The photographs have been widely disseminated. What we see is that before he was executed, Father Pro asked to be able to pray, so he knelt down and prayed for a few minutes, and then he stood there in front of the firing squad with his crucifix in one hand and the rosary in the other, and he shouted out, "Viva Cristo Rey," and the bullets flew, and he fell to the ground. And then, just to make sure he was dead, the sergeant came up with his musket and put it right at his head and fired that final shot to ensure his death. Father Pro died a martyr that day with the rallying cry of not just Mexican Catholics, but I believe all Catholics, then and now, on his lips, "Viva Cristo Rey."